ability to do that. All right, good. We are live. Welcome everyone to our book study group for Monday, the 11th of April, 2022. John Lavenia here with you. Here comes Virginia, Linda, Stuart, Catherine, Bob, Missy. Today we are concluding Pitch Anything by Orrin Claff. Yeah, these last two chapters were fun. He put you through the ringer on a few chapters. He really got your brain working, and not your croc brain either, your neocortex, man. We were working it. But you were willing to stick it out because you were interested, right? At least I hope you were. And then he went ahead and he treated us to the last two chapters, which were a delight, I think. So we're going to go ahead and cover those today, and then we're going to be moving on to our next book, which is a recommendation from one of our awesome members, Virginia Pipitone, The Gap and the Gain by Benjamin. Why can I not keep remembering this guy's name?
Harry.
Hold on a second here. Hold on. Books. I'll tell you who it is.
Sullivan.
No, that's Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy.
Hardy.
The Gap and the Gain. So go ahead and grab your copies now. I just went and grabbed the Kindle copy so this way I can share screens with you guys, because it's not one that I've read yet, nor did I own it. So but this one I already did. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into these last two chapters of Pitch Anything. I haven't cracked open The Gap and the Gain yet, but I'm guessing we'll cover a couple of chapters. I like to target 50 pages a week, so I'll look at the book. Just so you guys know, that's kind of my MO around here, 50 pages a week. All right. So that's 10 a day if you read 5 days a week, right? It's no big deal. But I like to correlate with chapters and, kind of compartmentalize. So we'll see how that works out. And then of course, with books like this, we hit chapter 4 and like we were at, full stop on chapter 4, like, whoa, this is huge. So, but anyway, chapters 7 and 8, 7 was just a story. It was like, all right, now I'm going to put this to the test. This is all good talk. Let's see if it works on $1 billion deal. $1 billion. The stakes are high. And he actually did something. And we talked about this in our general session this morning. For those of you tuning in who are not members here, we have great sessions that, in addition to the stuff that we do publicly here. But on our general session this morning, we got to talking a bit about adding stories. Okay, so the whole idea that facts tell and stories sell, which is another way to explain the difference between the croc brain, the crocodile brain, and of course the the more analytical spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff. But what did he do here in chapter 7? Case study, the airport deal. First lines of the chapter. This is the story. Oh, story time. I like stories, right? This is a story of a pitch so massive and so high stakes that in order to tell it properly, I'll need to tell you what happened in the 3 months leading up to the day of the pitch, right? So here he is out in the desert, hanging out at the casino, at the pool, somewhere in near the Salton Sea, right? Talk about the desert. I mean, that's the desert out there, man. There's nothing. And then there's this little crap casino and, coconut drinks and whatever. And here he was hanging up his guns because of the economic downturn, right? We're talking 2008, 2009, right? And so that's it. There's no deals. Everybody go your own way, right? See you guys next time, if there is a next time, right? And the whole story that unfolded out of this. And I guess, even if you didn't read the book, you probably know that he wound up winning the deal, but you don't get to find that out until the very last paragraph or two in the chapter. But he wove into it his explanation of the techniques and how they actually occurred. Like he basically gave you the pitch. And isn't it interesting, guys, that the pitch he used to close the deal was contrarian, was personal, right? Hopefully you all read the story. Okay. It wasn't just about, we're the best at raising capital. This was $1 billion capital raising deal to build an airport. Okay. But it wasn't just about, look at our credential and our bona fides and everything. Here's let me introduce you to the people of the community who this project will affect. And he won the deal, right? And like crushed his competition, who was very qualified, very bigger, better, more experienced, right? And he turned that even against them. I acknowledge my competitors here in the room, have enormous staffs with younger, more energetic people, right? So what did he basically say? These are people that are inexperienced and overfed, right? Look at this heavy burden that they're coming in here with, right? We're slim, right? So, and experienced. Anyway, you guys, what'd you think of this airport deal chapter 7? Would like to talk. Me, I guess. Oh, Catherine. Hey, Catherine, come on out.
Yeah. I just like to, as example of how, he really went above and beyond to make it personal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, something you've been really talking to us about lately, is having that story in, and probably just because of this book partly, but that was a fantastic thing for him to do. I mean, he went and stayed at the hotel for however many days there to get to know the community.
A month.
Was it a month that he stayed? I can't remember how long it said now. Yeah.
A month. Yeah. He went and he met with these people. He hung out at the ball field and played ball with the locals and interviewed people, walked one of them into the boardroom, $1 billion sales pitch. Let me introduce you to Joe Rodriguez, I think was the guy's name, right? And then comes the mechanic guy telling you about the football field that was paved over with it's an empty parking lot now. I grew up playing ball on this field, and the crappy airport that's there now, we can't play ball, right? This was a piece of history for our community. What did he say? Back when this was built, there was less than 1,000 residents. They were probably outnumbered by jackrabbits. Now there's 100,000, right? This is the community that this project will affect. This was the field from which, they launched missions for World War II. There were some veterans. This was the last patch of the United States that they had ever seen before their demise, right? This has to be done right, guys. So what did he do? I mean, that's a whole lot of dopamine and norepinephrine, right? Talk about the push-pull, right? This is big. This is moral. This is purposeful. It's a mission. And if you screw it up, look at these people here. Look at Joe. Look at the children who are playing in the street right now and not on the athletic field, which you could build. We've already worked it into the budget. In fact, here's the plans. Right? You guys get to be the hero now. We've also calculated here's the football field for the junior aviators. Man, he friggin' nailed it. Oh my goodness.
And I loved how he gave them those plans as well and said, regardless of who does it, here's the plans. I want to make sure this is done.
That's right.
That was fabulous.
Friend, Shannon and I went to look at campers, travel trailers, right? Yeah. And we met this guy. Listen to this. We met the salesman, and we don't know nothing, right? And admittedly, we don't know that. We're walking in. We walk into Camping World, and the only reason I know that Camping World exists is because they're major sponsors of NHRA drag racing, which of course I'm a fan, right? Brought to you by Camping World. So, and such and such oil company, and right, but Camping World is always in there. And of course, you ever go to a drag race? I would imagine NASCAR's like this too. I don't know, but there's all the RVs, the RV parking, right? So you got the car parking, and there's like the VIP, and then of course the pit crews and the big trailers, the trucks. But then there's the RV lot, and there's like all these people barbecuing, and like, that's their world, man. They roll in with the RV, and then where's the next city we're hitting? And so I go into Camping World right here in North County, right? I think it was up in Holiday, right? So you guys know Clearwater, St. Petersburg, up north. There's I'm still learning my way around Palm Harbor, Newport Richey, and all this. Tampa Bay, right? And so we roll in there, and we're assigned to a salesman. Of course, we're ups, right? So in the car business, that would be called an up, right? Hey, Bob, you're up. Next customer is yours. So anyway, and this guy's name is John, and he is a former or a retired police officer from New Jersey, nice guy. And I even said to him, man, you're too nice to have been a Jersey cop. You got to be kidding me, right? Here he is selling RVs, right, to people that want to go see the country and everything. I said, wow, what a transition. But as we were talking, he was giving us. We said we want to see, these are our wants and needs, right? So he, all right, how do I sell you? Tell me how I sell you. So we told him our wants and needs, and so he was showing us various models, right? But one of the things he said, Catherine and everyone, was, John, Shannon, Trinity, he's selling our kid too, right? I just want you guys to know, whether you buy a camper from me or not, go camping. Don't hesitate on this. Like, this is awesome. I love this. I do this. Kind of like I'm not only the hair club president, I'm also a client, right? So my wife and I go camping all the time. I don't care, where you buy it, here or not. Do not put this off. You need to go camping. So that was kind of like, Catherine, as you cited in the book, where he said, look, whether you use us for this deal or not, here's the plans. Please put the football field in. Wow. Moral authority, right? Yeah. I mean, that was good. Thank you, Catherine. Some great points. And guys, can you see how the frames, plural, that he used, and he enumerated them again. Okay. But can you see how the frames beat out, was it Goldberg or whatever the big firm was that he was competing against? And the other one from London, who was also very qualified. In fact, they knew more about, he said they knew more about airports and aviation than everybody else in the room combined, right? These people were like expert, and he won the deal. Stuart.
Fabulous. No, I love the story.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot that I liked about, there was a lot that I liked about this chapter and the story part. First of all, he talks about Greenberg, like, he pitched to the guy 10 years ago and he offered him a gig on the spot and he turned him down. I think it's the Apple guy. I think it's the guy that he bit the apple from or whatever. And he said, nah, I don't want to work for you. You don't have a good reputation or whatever. And then obviously, right, it kind of seems like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting that these guys had a lot of history and, he taught them a lot about framing and all that. And the guy was trying to get a hold of him and, he was out of the game and all this kind of stuff. And he calls him and he hits him first. Greenberg hits him with the FOMO and oh, this is a monster deal. No, I'm not interested. I'm out of the game. He's like, oh, well, okay, I got somebody else, right? So then he hits him with the, somebody else is going to do it. And then he's like, oh, who you got? Like all of a sudden he gets curious. And he's like, no, forget it. And then whatever, a couple of weeks later, he's like, that guy couldn't do it. And he flies out there. And I love, well, and he talks about that his clients, there are things that his clients knew about him, specifically Greenberg, one of which was that he would go anywhere, anytime to make the deal. And that he would do whatever it took, right? Planes, trains, and automobiles and buses or whatever. And that if the plane was delayed, he'd, rent a car, or he'd get on a bus, or he would do whatever he had to do to make that deal. So I think, he had a reputation with his clients as the fixer, as the guy who, would do whatever it took to get the deal. What I really enjoyed about the story chapter, I think two things. Obviously, the pitch was amazing, and you hit a lot of those key points about how he did kind of go up against Goliath, two Goliaths, and won the deal. But what I found really amusing was the frame wars between Greenberg and Clapp, right? And first he hits him with the time frame. He's like, "Oh man, my plane's on the runway. We got to, pack up and let's go." And then he counters with the expert frame. He's like, "Well, you at that, rate at this altitude, you've got 3.5 hours of idle time. I need some food or whatever." And then he counters. Then Greenberg counters with the prize frame, right? And this is more money than you're ever going to see, and all this stuff, right? And they go back and forth. And he describes it as they continue to frame, reframe, and deframe, right? This whole kind of game that these guys are playing. And I think that's an allusion to the next chapter where really, to me, and obviously we're going to talk about it, but like the motto or the moral is like, have fun with it, you know, and if you're not having fun, then you shouldn't be doing it. But in terms of the pitch,
Didn't you call him a quitter at one point too?
right, he shamed him.
Yeah, that works really good, guys, on like driver or red personalities, right? Like hard charging people, right? I had a guy tell me once, because I was considering this deal, and he had some really good results with his approach to it, and I was not sure I wanted to join him in this business venture. And he said, "Well, maybe you think I'm a better salesman than you." Oh, really? He just said that. Really?
That's
Is that
on.
right? Okay. And then I blew him out of the water. I'll show you. Sign me up for this freaking thing right now. He got me. Right?
I love it. No, it's true. You know, if we're type A, ego kind of driven people, and I think we all have those aspects, right? That it's a matter of finding the right button, right? And all of a sudden, boom, game on, man. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna say that I can't do this. Okay. I love how, yeah, and if you notice, they were all kind of surprised that when they got into the office, that at first he was like, "Oh, we're pitching in front of each other," and then it's, "Oh, there's a third pitcher as well," and like it really, you know, was it Jeffries or Simon or whatever, you know, he called them all by their first
Yeah.
name. That you know, that he mentioned that he thought the guy did it on purpose, you know, to kind of throw everybody off of their game and see how well they did. He walks into the office and he tries to immediately razzle his competitor, Tim, right? Or is that his name? And he starts, you know, kind of hitting on him, you know, trying to get him to get distracted, and the guy really wouldn't talk to him. But he talks a lot about that the guy, I want to say Simon, whoever they were pitching to,
Simon Jeffries.
and the company, and that he personally picked out the Asian motif and the you know, kind of the opulence going back to like the beta traps and things like that. But even then, because when he was in the office, Greenberg's office, overlooking LA and Hollywood all the way to the beach and all this, that he said that he was picturing what was going on in that room, and he was picturing the decor and the furniture and all this kind of stuff. So even, and he didn't mention it, but it sounded like he was already kind of mentally beta trapping himself by imagining this other company with all their fancy stuff, right? And it almost kind of threw him off his game. I love that, you know, they made it about the history of the place and, you know, the legacy, right? And turning these guys into heroes, and of course the mechanic and the football field and the community center. And then there's another thing he talks about, like when you're outgunned, you need to be excellent, right? And in many different ways. And in one way, he was complimenting his competition. He was really being, you know, very gracious. And of course, like you said, that there was some underlying digs in his compliments, which really meant like, this is a bloated, overgrown, big company that's ineffective with too many young, inexperienced people and all that kind of stuff. And what was the deal when it came down to the pitch? He continually shaved his pitch down to like 20 minutes, to like a week before, right? And everything he could do to shave another 2 minutes here, another 3 minutes here, another 5 minutes there. And then when the big competitor gets up there and everybody notices that he had 42 slides on his PowerPoint, and he's kind of like,
Yeah.
and they, I think, what was it? That guy's pitch was like 55 minutes or something like that.
It took the whole hour, and they took 5 minutes just to set up the damn slide projector.
Right, fumbling over the whole deal. And then when the expert airport construction company gets up there, it became apparent that this was just going to be another page in their portfolio or another notch in the belt, right? And I think even from that, came off like a cookie cutter kind of deal. And so I think, he was secretly smiling inside as these other people were pitching their offers, right? And then I like the fact that he used visuals, but not the disappearing visuals like a PowerPoint on a screen, right? He used like life-size poster boards of jets everywhere, and with was flipping them over back and forth in the football field and the jets, and like really, and leaving them up there so that, he was really trying to spark that hot cognition, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the other guys, 5 seconds of a slide and then you're on to the next, right? So he left that up there because he knew that, airport people were really jazzed by jets or whatever, right?
They call that like airplane porn. Right?
Totally.
Right? Yeah, look at the jets. Look at the jets, right? See the jets? Right.
Awesome. No, I thought it was great. Great story. I mean, he spends a lot of time in the book talking about being a good storyteller.
Mhm.
And, that was a great example of a good story, and of course
Yeah.
he took the guy out of the jungle by telling us that, they did win the contract, right?
Yeah. In this opening here of the actual presentation, speaking slowly, I began. There's a tremendous responsibility for all of us today. So he just took ownership of it with that. This is a decision not about who is the most charming, right? Just took a dig out of the gold hammer people, or the most skilled in finance, the London people, but instead about who has the right ideas that can raise 1 billion for Davis Field. Others have tried this kind of thing before and failed. So it's not that the best man should win or that the best team should win, but instead the best ideas should triumph today. Right? Almost maybe think of Batman, right? So if you're a man, you can be defeated, forgotten, or what. But if you're an idea, you're bigger than a man. You're Batman, right? This runway has served the United States of America in World War II and hosted squadrons of B-17 bombers and other fighter planes that took part in the Pacific campaigns. Today, we're not talking about building a shopping center or a strip mall or motel. We're building an airport. We're going to do it on hallowed ground. This has to be done right. Oh, man. So he says it was critical to get the frame right in the beginning. Think about this, guys, right? Whether you're pitching airport deals or shopping club memberships or t-shirts on the interwebs, right? Just think of the magnitude that you can create with story and with context, with a frame, right? The main thing that this book is about is framing, because people experience the data within a frame, just like you experience any picture. Think of a picture frame, right? In fact, you'll hear photographers and videographers talk about, that's in frame or frame the shot, right? So what's the context, right? Datum must exist in context. Same datum in a different context is interpreted completely differently. Here he went on, we are honored to be competing against 2 other great firms today. This is the part that Stuart was just referring to. I know each of them could serve you well because they have large teams. This seems like a damaging admission, okay? Because they have large teams, multiple offices, legions of young, energetic researchers, and the best paid analysts in the world. And when working a deal, these firms spare no expense to tackle the job. This is almost like he in the last chapter where he talked about Reagan and Mondale, where people made an issue out of Reagan's age, like he's kind of old, right? And so, what about the age thing? And Reagan said, well, you know what? I'm not going to use my opponent's youth and inexperience against him. I'll be cool. Just totally flipped the frame.
Before he
Wow.
goes in there, he mentions that he understands how important it is to find the right tone and match the tone of the
Mhm.
room, right? And while he wants to have fun with it, he understands that, it involves the government and the FAA, and that, there's a level of seriousness to it, and that he's dealing with state and county officials and budgets and this and that. So like he has to find that right note to hit to go in there. And I think he's brilliant the way he did it. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Talking about the responsibility that falls on all of them and all that stuff. Absolutely.
That's really good. So guys, think of this when you're pitching anything, right? It's like, what frame do you want to present and control as your prospect, or your, if it's one to many, your webinar attendees or whatever it happens to be, what frame do you want them in? And then you've got to set that tone. And you do it with one of the words that I've used several times here in this group is flippancy, a bit of flippancy, not so friggin' serious, right? Because like he says in the last chapter, people who have options, they aren't so tight and serious, right? And they can make small acts of defiance. They can withdraw. They're not the rat looking for cheese, Missy, right? They've got a bit of flexibility, right? They're not so friggin' desperate. So there's a bit of play involved in there. Missy, Bob, your thoughts?
Well, I was going to ask, it's a crude question, slightly off topic, but I mean, it's on topic. In a deal like that, how much are they going to make? Like how much? Because there's a whole company involved. So how
Mhm.
much is this guy who's making the pitch and winning the deal for the company?
25 million for the whole firm, of which he got like 10%, so 2.5 million.
30%. Yeah, it's in the text. The
Oh,
$25 million deal, he's gonna get 30%.
Oh, 30%. Okay.
okay. Doesn't seem like a lot for $1 billion, but everybody's got to get paid.
I mean, yeah, and it's going to take them, a year plus to get the funds together and to pitch the investors and blah blah blah. But for 4.5 million, yeah, sign me up. Right. But keep in mind, he'd been working in this space for a couple of decades, right? It's not like, what did he say in here in the last chapter in Getting the Game? He talked about how much he screwed up, right? What a disaster he was, and how many deals he lost, and how many customers he didn't serve adequately, and why he should have, gotten with like a coach, a mentor, a team, a partner, right? And he gives us tips on how to do that, right? How to like even kind of like mock up situations where you can like role play or just go out in public and identify frames, identify beta traps, right? And to sort of like get the vocabulary of it all, right? Oh, look, I see a beta trap down the hallway, and there's this person's running a power frame right here. And so you can just kind of like psychoanalyze everything that you see. That's why I sometimes say, like jokingly, sales is my religion, because like everywhere I look, I see this stuff. It's kind of like the Matrix. You guys remember the movie The Matrix, where here's Neo, the chosen one, right? And he, he's dealing with the illusory, reality that the Matrix is presenting to him. But when he finally, gets to see past all the filters, he sees the data. Everywhere you look, data, right? He sees the code. And so that's where you can get to with this. And is that any different in any other profession? Right? I mean, you can, one of my other backgrounds is obviously mechanical, right? So I had a meeting. It was actually a board meeting, right? And we had myself and some business partners sitting around, and we had some of our assisting staff came in, and one of the guys brought in this item that he had made on a 3D printer. And I didn't know anything about 3D printers at the time. And he brought it around and passed it around. We were looking at this. I can't remember what the item was, like a house or something. And I smelled, that's 3-in-1 oil. It's like, yeah, you're right. And one of my business partners were like, how the hell do you know that's 3-in-1 oil? I was like, I know different lubricants and their smells like instantly. And I hadn't smelled 3-in-1 oil in some years. Anybody know what 3-in-1 oil smells like? Right? It's a very distinct smell. But that's kind of like same thing that we've talked about with music, right? Why can these jazz guys get up there and improvise? They know the language so well that I got the guitar, you got the bass, you got the keyboard, you got the drums. We've never met each other before, and we're about to make music that fast, right? You know the language that well. It's a whole different reality at that point. Kidney. I missed the context of that. Kidney. Okay.
3D printed.
Oh,
Okay. Right. So, Missy, does that answer your question, or did I just
no,
totally
it
go?
does, it does, but I want to know if you personally, when you have big deals, are you thinking in frames? Do you think along these lines, or is it just so ingrained in you that it just flows the John Lavenia way? Or do you?
Both.
Both.
It's mostly, and I wouldn't say that I'm at the level of Oren Klaff. All right. This guy has deliberately, codified what actually works for him and for people who are willing to study this to the degree that he had. But the thing that impressed me about this book was that for years I had been attempting to get these kind of results when dealing with customers and, prospects and all this, not knowing that what I was doing was what he explained here. And so without the benefit of the book, I had been practicing this kind of stuff much more loosely. Okay. So this really raised my game now. I could look at this and I can very deliberately think, all right, I'm going into this situation. And here's the frame that I want to bring with me. And he obviously rehearsed. He said he took 2.5 days to trim a minute, 2 minutes off of that presentation. Right. So that was a major effort, like kind of getting down to which are the best words to use, less words, more meaning. Right. So that kind of a thing. Now, that's because there was nuance to this deal. There was novelty and uniqueness to this deal, the airport deal in this case. Whereas I pitch the same stuff all the time. All right. And so that's, whereas I may not be at the level where Oren Klaff is with these sort of things, I get to do it again and again and again. Imagine if he had the airport deal every day.
Oh,
Right. So that's how you can kind of look at it. So you've got, let's say, smaller deals. Okay. You're probably not doing $1 billion airport deals tomorrow. Okay. But you do have a pitch coming up tomorrow, and it's the same pitch that you did to somebody else. Well, you go through enough somebody else's and you get a bit of intuition. That's 3-in-1 oil. That's a power frame. That's a beta trap. Right. And you don't even have to think about it anymore. You can just kind of slither right through like it never even touched you. Right. Preemptively. Public speakers. Right. I can get on a stage and I can just sense the tone of the audience. Right. And go right for, the frame that I want and the setting and the emotional state that I want the audience to be in. Right. And so, and sometimes people go to, again, this is just in the context of the stuff that I'm familiar with, right? This works in any profession or whatever, but people go to like Toastmasters and, speaking classes or whatever to get the intellectual understanding of how to, capture and hold an audience's attention and, things that you can do like NLP kind of stuff. I had somebody once accuse me of being an NLP master. And I said, I read one book on it. I thought it was shit. I don't hate NLP. It's yeah. Right. And they said, oh, no, John, you just do it automatically. I'm like, oh, well, okay. I reject the idea of it largely. It's got its uses, I suppose, but I don't use it. But maybe I do it automatically and not even know it. Well, all right then. So the intellectualizing about this can be a precursor to competence with it. But I think if you just put yourself in the game, which is the last chapter, get in the game, you're going to get some of this stuff just through osmosis, right? You get in front of enough customers, Missy, and everyone who what the objection is going to be. You know what their skepticisms are. You already know their rebuttals. You already know. And so you can preemptively diffuse all that stuff that fast, right? But the thing that trumps all of it, like you talked about here, local, status, right? The status of it. When people get you on the phone or on the webinar or whatever it is, they should be able to instantly know that you're a person, to use some philosophical terms we've used here, you're a person of increase. You're the advancing man or woman. Anyone who gets to deal with you, lucky for them, because you're about advancement and you advance all involved. You're busy and successful. ABL, always be leaving, right? We're going to get this done, and it's for your benefit that we're going to get this done. I'm good. I'm already good, right? I'm going to help you now get what you said you wanted, right? Instantaneously. You don't have to say any of those words, but with that posture, is another word that I like to use, with that knowingness, with that space, you've got enough space that you can be a bit flippant, defiant, contrarian, right? And actually get into a dialogue and have, you guys know how I've talked about the difference between an introverted salesperson versus an extroverted salesperson, right? For Oren to be able to pivot and to be able to address, oh, now we've got two competitors in the room, right? And let me go ahead and just slide that, a couple of things in there in my pitch like that fast. All right. For him to be able to do that, he can't be introverting on it. He's got to be able to look outside and assess the scene and pivot. So you need a bit of space around you to do that. You can't be all bunched up, metaphorically speaking. Okay, so that comes with practice. But then there's an air about you. I mean, think of it like this: same data, different pitch man. Okay, so here is an offer for a product or service being pitched by someone who can't sell their way out of a paper bag. They're scared. They're nervous. They are not the prize, nor do they even know what pricing is. And they're just hoping, which isn't a strategy, but they're hoping that the customer sees enough good in the product that it will sell itself. That's choice A. Same product, same offer, but now being pitched by, pick someone you have a huge amount of respect and esteem for. And he or she just says to you, Lindsay, here's what I want you to do. Get this deal. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Right? What was the difference? The frame, the status, same data. Okay. Is this making sense, guys? Okay, good. Well, you guys get me talking when we read this book, because this is like, yeah, you hit some nerves with this one for me. Well, all of them. We've read some great books. I'm excited about The Gap in the Gain. I'm excited to see where that goes. So chapter 8, get in the game. Great stuff here. He's telling you to actually use this stuff. This isn't just theory. You want to put it to use. And no, he's not perfect. Okay, remember, guys, you're dealing with the croc brain here. When something is boring, ignore it. When something seems dangerous, fight or run. When something is complicated, radically summarize, causing information loss, and pass it on in a severely truncated form, right? This is how your customer thinks. So you can use this stuff. And by doing so, you're going to be able to create those hot cognitions, stack frames, and collect decisions, right? Affirmative decisions. You're not going to sell everybody, but that's part of the concept he gave you here, always be leaving, right? So getting started. Step 1, learn to recognize beta traps and how to step around them. Step 2, in a gradual way, start stepping around the beta traps. It'll feel uncomfortable at first, okay? Step 3, identify and label social frames. Just observe, look. Guys, you can do this. You can go to the bus station or something and just watch people. It's a very good exercise. Step 4, begin to initiate frame collisions with safe targets. Okay, don't get yourself dragged out of the room or fired or whatever. Step 5, the small acts of defiance and denial you use to take control of the social frame create a certain amount of conflict and tension. This is the point, push, pull. Okay, so it's about getting more comfortable with that. Step 6, frame control cannot be forced because this takes the fun out of it. All right, so remember to have fun. Step 7, work with other frame masters. Why do you think I love a good sales pitch? I know I've said to you guys before that, I once went to a timeshare presentation just to hear the pitch. And it was so good that I bought it, but I want to hear that pitch. These guys are supposed to be pretty good, right? So even if let's say you're not in the market for such and such. Let's say you're in a marketing program, and you have you already know, like, this is the golden goose. I'm good. I'm not looking to sign up in anything else. But then you get approached by somebody who's in the hot new sizzling pre-launch deal, right? And they want to show you the details. Some of the details. Well, you got a webinar? Oh yeah, I'm jumping on. I can't wait to hear this pitch. Right. And then, well, it's kind of not fair because, once that's done, I typically switch them into my deal. but still, I want to, maybe they got something good. Right. Especially if you're newer in the whole, getting your products or services sold. Right. If you're newer to this whole conversation, attend every sales pitch you can, not with the intent of buying per se. Okay. But with the intent of, give me some ammo here. I haven't heard everything, right? You got something good? Have your pen and paper ready. Okay. This is kind of like what we call a swipe file. So throughout this book, you got examples from Oren about different word tracks and things that he used. It may not apply directly to what you're selling. Okay. But he gave you some ammo, right? This is really good stuff. You can go and spend lots of money with copywriting consultants and everything else to get some of the ideas that you got for $20 or whatever you paid for the book. Okay. But when let's say you get your junk mail out of the mailbox, right? Copywriters wrote that. Read it. That's training. Okay. Your email inbox, right? I have a folder called Swipe. It's my swipe file. If you can get me to open the email because your subject line is just awesome, that's going to my swipe file. If you can get me to read the whole email and then click on the thing, oh my goodness, that's some good copy right there. This is training. And here's the more good news, everyone. I was on a webinar with a guy who's made millions of dollars, okay, and he was pitching a program. I could almost say what he was going to say before it came out of his mouth, right? Because I've just heard pitches like this so many times. It was very predictable. He's made a lot of money, a lot. And his pitch wasn't great. Like, it was predictable for me. Okay. From my perspective, it was predictable. It was good. Wasn't amazing. I got one thing out of it. I got one bullet that I added to my ammo box from attending an hour-long webinar. Was it worth it? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But you guys, that we all like to kick around quotes here sometimes, and little ideas, like Oren spent a couple of days to trim down his pitch, a couple of minutes, get a little bit shorter, right? So it's still too long. If it's not necessary, it's necessary not to say. How do you do that? You have lots of tools. You have lots of ammo, right? I'm going to use this tool for this job. This one does what this one does, but it does it a lot quicker. So get rid of this one, put this one in here. How do you do that? Listen to lots of pitches. And you do that enough, it's going to be the point where, oh, I can't believe he just said that. Oh no, what a blunder, right? It's almost like a game of chess. It's like, no, that didn't just come out of your mouth, did it? Really? It's like in a chapter on eliminating neediness, right? So what do you guys think? Oh no, don't ask that. No. But this is the stuff that he went through, which now, to some of you, I'm sure seems very obvious. It's like, wow, I would never say that. Right? What do you think? I already know what you think. You think this is friggin' awesome, don't you? Who's got some thoughts on chapter 8?
Not so much on chapter 8, but on what you just riffed on, John, and that is attending other people's sales pitches. And I don't know, maybe I'm just jaded, but I'm tired of pitches that go nowhere for the longest time. The idea of sitting through was effectively an infomercial. But wait, there's more. And you never come to the friggin' point.
Of course.
Well, that's great, Bob, that you're able to recognize how bad most sales pitches are.
So that's why I guess I'm never going to progress going to other people's sales pitches because I'm already jaded. I
wouldn't say you
already
wouldn't
know.
progress.
I already know what to expect. They're going to bait and bait and bait, and then at the end, it's switch. You think they're leading you down the primrose path with all this great stuff, and they never ever come to the point. And then finally, when they do come to the point, it's not what you were looking for.
Not all.
Well, I mean, that's a generality. Okay, I get it. But yeah, there's a lot of bad sales pitches out there. And some of them I can't sit through. You're right. It's like I'm
Why
ready
would
to
I
learn
waste my
something.
time learning what I don't want to do?
Because you don't know what you're going to hear until you hear it.
Yeah, but you get clarity through contrast.
That's true too.
So I wouldn't say that you can't learn or whatever. And you know what, Bob, the fact that you've got a critical eye for that, I think means that you've got some experience with that. I mean, I think you're a good communicator, Bob. So there's some validation if you'd like it. But still, I mean, here's the thing. When I look at the results that people get, by their fruits, you'll know them, right? And then I see what they're doing. Not on one hand, it could give me a great sense of reassurance. It's like, wow, that pitch sucked, and yet the results are pretty good that they're getting with their offer. All right, so that's instructive. On the other hand, right, I can sometimes hear a great pitch, and whether the results are good or not, I can get some ideas out of that, just like reading your junk mail, okay, which I may be able to put into a better offer, right? So here's a great product, but crappy marketing or whatever. Well, we need to put good marketing with that. So it's like putting puzzle pieces together. But something H.L. Mencken said, which I think we've quoted before, and that is that no one ever went broke underestimating the average intelligence of the American public. All right. So do you have to be Oren Klaff to survive in the jungle of sales and marketing? No. Okay. But when you have standards that high, my goodness, pitch anything, right? You're like a freak of nature. Like, holy crap, what just happened, right? So,
but for me, the greatest, there were two takeaways from the last two chapters, both from chapter 7 for me. The first was when Oren was called a quitter. Okay. I mean, that was the burr under the saddle. That was the needle. And I thought about famous story when Mickey Mantle was having trouble his first time up in the major leagues. He was sent down to Kansas City, and he was a broken man. I mean, he had nothing but promise, and he was not delivering. And he called his father, and his father drove up from Oklahoma, met him in his hotel, and started to pack his belongings. And said, "Dad, what are you doing?" He says, "I thought I raised a man."
oh,
But if this is all you're going to think of yourself, you might as well come back and work in the mines with me. And Mantle said, I called him up expecting, to have the pat on the back, the reassurance. Instead of giving me sympathy, he gave me a needle.
wow.
So
You needed that jab.
he
You needed
did.
that jab.
And then the other, you developed very well, and that is, keep it simple, keep it short. His genius was in the big deal, knowing that he was going to be in this presentation with these other big hitters, and they were going to pitch a lot of their credentials, and it's going to take an awful lot of time. So he figured, if I'm brief and I can come from an oblique angle that no one ever thought of, it's going to stick. Okay, and that was the genius of his frame. He kept it brief. He knew what not to say and when not to say it. That's why I went off just now about how hard I think it is to read an email, okay, which goes on and on and on, or to listen to a 3-hour session on you absolutely have to sign up for this program. You absolutely have to spend X thousand dollars, otherwise you're going to be left behind. And they go on and on and on, and they never reveal anything. They just tell you this is a great promise and you've got to act now.
But who's they?
Whoever is presenting,
No,
whoever is presenting.
but you're generalizing very much. I was able to go to three days of Shannon's course for the free course that they gave, and the amount of information that they gave for free it was all meat. There was no like fillers out here, and maybe it was all meat. And then I didn't get to see the last few days, 2 days, but they're not all like that. Where did you get this jaded?
Well, he's talking about infomercials and straight up sales pitches. What you attended was a free coaching workshop. So hopefully there was some meat, right? Then we'll better be. So
Yeah.
like I look, Bob, I've experienced the same thing. It's like, oh my goodness, get to it already. Get on with it already. Right. And so, but that's amateurish stuff. And so again, that's, I guess, validation for you is that you can recognize that. But what's the average IQ? I know it's declining. I don't know. It's probably around 98 or something, 95.
But you used the word copywriters. Okay. Okay. I'm sick of copywriters because that's how they are trained to exercise their craft.
But he is telling us not to do that
I understand
in
that.
a different way.
I understand that. That's why that was the only, that was the takeaway that stayed with me the most is he kept it brief and he made it interesting. He didn't string them along.
No, he didn't.
Okay. Too often, you get strung along. We have sat, for 3-hour sessions, listening to people talk about these great products, these great
Well, you
programs.
want to kill yourself and
Yeah,
shoot yourself in the head.
that's right. Please, tell me something. Just don't give me a promise. Give me a fact.
Let me go in another direction. I'm sorry to monopolize, but most of the people here know what, Melaleuca is and everything. And maybe they don't know who Christian is, but you and Christian are such, have you ever listened to Christian pitching people, customers, new customers? Because you're John Lavenia and Christian are so different from each other. And I'm trying to imagine how you have to be yourself. You can't copy. It doesn't matter who you. Now I can't get my words right. I had a thought in there and it just went into the ether. Maybe Neville Goddard will give it back to me.
Well, what does Christian and I share? What do we have in common?
Well, you patriots. You're
Based on the book, what do we have in common?
framing.
Which frame?
Well, Christian is, homespun, teddy bear.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Authority.
Authority, yes. He's very big. You're right.
It looks very different. So that's instructive, right? You don't need to be a clone. You don't need to have Warren Claff's, haircut and his smile, but you just got to know your stuff, which is why I say we can boil this whole book down to the idea of sales itself, which is nothing but the transfer of enthusiasm, a higher level of knowingness, communicating with a lower level of knowingness and bringing them up and enlightening them using whatever devices are necessary. And if they're not necessary, don't use them. And so Christian has, and for those of you who don't know, one of my business partners is Christian. He is is so unassuming. He's like Missy said, he's a teddy bear kind of guy, professional hippie, big beard, bald, no hair, red-ass baboon on his hat. Like he doesn't give a shit, right? But my goodness, like as soon as you meet the guy, it's like, yeah, this guy knows something. He knows. He doesn't hope. He doesn't try. He knows, right? And so he can use less words. But I've chided him a bit. I've said, Christian, spit it out, man. Like, holy shit, you talk so slow. But it's a completely different approach, but still the same authority exists. And I'm just like a machine gun. So our personalities are different in that way. And by the way, he's like one of my best friends in the world. So as different as we are, in some ways, we also got a lot of similarities. And I think a lot of that is from the heart. He really cares about people. He really wants to help people. And so his personality is different. But I'll tell you what, that guy would literally give you the shirt off his back, like for real, like the biggest heart, one of the biggest hearted men I've ever met.
And fix your toilet at the same time.
Yeah, he knows plumbing and stuff. Guys, we're almost at the top of the hour. Wow. All right. Lindsay, you haven't gotten a word in yet.
Yeah, I've been at a baseball game. No, just when he said you'd fix your toilet at the same time, that just cracked me up. No, but I was thinking, I bet John probably wants to hit me upside the head and say, spit it out. Too. So, I mean, I get that. So I totally get that. But no, it's been a great session. I'm sorry I haven't been able to participate, but I've enjoyed it.
We know our stuff. We're just trying to find our way, and we don't have 10,000 hours yet. So
we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Well, you've already put some in, all of you. Look, you wouldn't be
Yes.
in this conversation if this wasn't something of interest to you. I'd say if everyone who needed to read this book was here right now, we'd be, 10,000 times over capacity in the Zoom room. So the fact that you're interested enough to actually engage says a lot. All right. Now, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? He gave you some exercises you can do here for fun. And Bob's been doing them already because Missy, you were telling me Bob was identifying on the phone when he heard you with the conversation. Oh, that was a power busting frame, or that was the time frame, right? So Bob hears this stuff. Okay, so you guys can, now that you've got at least some vocabulary around it. He gave you some vocabulary right at the end. Frame control, power busting frame collisions, prizing, beta traps, seizing status, local star power, push-pull, alpha, hot cognition, crocodile brain, neocortex, right? So this is the vocabulary that he used in here. All right. So he basically codified, here's all the mental gymnastics that we've all experienced. So you've already got some hours in that. Now you've got a language that you can speak. If you're hanging out at the train station with Stuart, and you could be like, hey, look at that. Right. There's that frame right there. Right. Look at that. Look at the status of that person versus that person. Right. So you can kind of, you know what you're looking at now. It's the matrix. You're just decoding the matrix. That's all.
Maybe we can make a game show out of this, Frame Busters.
It could be good.
That could be a game, sales
Yeah.
game
Yeah,
for salesmen. Wow. Great idea, Bob. Nobody steal that. That's us.
Well, Bob I know he said that, to be funny, but think of game shows, think of the frames. I mean, you were watching the game show. Here's the power frame, the prize frame. Here's the time frame, right? You got a limited amount of time, right? It reminds me of, and it's done in fun. There's fun, right? Remember, Let's Make a Deal, Monty Hall,
yeah.
right? I mean, look at this. Look at the dynamics of that, right? And who doesn't like games? It's games, right? This is a game. Enroll people in your game and let it be as such, right? Don't get so damn serious. I'm saying that because I need to hear it. All right. It's a reminder for me. Get some space around you. All right. Extrovert. Look, listen, right? And then deliver. In other words, say less to more people.
Thank you.
Yay. Or in clap. Pitch anything, ladies and gentlemen. All right. At the request of Virginia Pipitone, we're on to Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. See, I remembered his last name because I said it 3 times. their book, which they co-wrote, which is The Gap and the Gain. Virginia, do you want to tell us what is that book about? Virginia's here with us right now.
Hi. So it puts when something doesn't go right, we have a tendency to focus on that. And he turns this into what can you gain out of that experience? So when you're focusing on what went wrong and you're feeling bad about it or whatever, you're in the gap mentally. But if you focus on maybe what you could have done differently, what you're learning from this, what the experience is, and what positive outcome maybe, how could you turn that around, then you're staying in the gain. And he gives a lot of different examples in just everyday life, whether it's, his personal relationships with his family and his kids and his wife, or whether it is, business relationships. And so it really has helped me a lot, where I think, okay, what am I focusing on? Am I in the gap right now? Or am I going to get out of that? And I'm going to focus on what in this situation, even though it may not have been ideal, I can take as a positive experience and focus on that on there. It's how I would summarize it. And that's the good news. The bad news is one of the training sessions I'm in for Beamer is usually on Thursdays, and she's doing it on Monday next week at the same time.
Well, you've already read the book, so you'll miss the next session.
I think I'll be on two computers. I'll be logged into this for the first 20 or 30 minutes, and then she goes over into the meat and potatoes. So I may be on and I haven't completely finished the book, so I'm going to start it over and read it again.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad we're doing it.
Yeah, good. So everybody grab a copy of The Gap and the Gain. And we'll see you back here next week. I'm guessing 2 chapters. I don't know how long the chapters are, but I'll assess and I'll email everybody. But plan on covering a couple of chapters. And if we can get through a book a month, thereabouts, right? That's the pace we typically run on. Unless it's like some, Think and Grow Rich. We spent 15 weeks on it. So anyway, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for going on this journey with me with one of my favorite sales books. Okay. Now we'll get back to our regularly scheduled, philosophical, wanderings. So